The Premier League is home to some of the finest centre-forwards on earth. Sergio Aguero, Harry Kane, and even the out-of-sorts Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang are all among some of the most lethal finishers in the world game. And even if you look outside of what is sometimes referred to as the division's traditional top six, you'll find the likes of Jamie Vardy at Leicester City, Raul Jimenez at Wolves, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Everton. But how do the Premier League's deputy centre-forwards stack up? Those who are waiting in the wings, brought on either to try and make an impact in games, or to be handed a starting berth in the event of an injury to the team's star striker. Well, that's what today's video is all about. A little over a month ago, I made a similar video ranking every backup goalkeeper in the Premier League. And I should add, before I begin, that this video was not as straightforward as that one. Whilst it's typically pretty obvious who is the first and second choice goalkeeper at a specific club, the order of a team's forwards is a little more ambiguous. Some teams play with 1, 2, or even 3 strikers. Sometimes a change in formation or system can promote someone from the status of a backup to a regular fixture. You can see where the confusion comes in, so I'll try to explain why I've picked the player as well as why they are ranked where they are in some instances when there could be any debate. The players are ranked based on current ability, in my opinion, and you will disagree with some, perhaps even all of my decisions, and that's all part of the fun. Here is my attempt to rank every backup striker in the Premier League from worst to best. 20th, Newcastle United, Andy Carroll. My apologies to Andy Carroll and to Newcastle United fans, but someone has to take the wooden spoon, and on this occasion, it's you. There's no doubt at one time Andy Carroll was better than a number of other strikers featured in this video. He'd even be among the top half, at his peak I would suggest, but injuries have no doubt taken their toll on the big Geordie. Once a remarkable aerial presence who could hold the ball up, bring others into the game, and bag a few goals for himself, Carroll no longer seems quite so powerful or menacing. In the last 2.5 seasons, he has failed to score in 38 Premier League games, and following a promising pre-season, Carroll has failed to carry that form into competitive fixtures at St James's Park. It was between Carroll and Dwight Gale for Newcastle, but Carroll has played more minutes this season, so he got the nod as the Magpies' representative first-choice backup. 19th, Fulham, ABOUBAKAR KAMARA. Nicknamed AK-47 due to his initials and shirt number, were this video ranked on clever choices of shirt number, KAMARA would cruise into top spot. Unfortunately, it's ranked on ability, and KAMARA has largely been firing blanks since arriving at Craven Cottage in 2017. Having been part of Slavisa Jekanovic's promotion-winning side in 2018, KAMARA's debut campaign in the Premier League was eventful to say the least. He scored a few goals, but drew the ire of manager Claudio Ranieri after he took the ball off Alexander Mitrovic for a penalty against Huddersfield Town and then missed. And shortly after that, he was arrested at the club's training ground on suspicion of ABH and banned by the club. He's now back at the Cottage, serving as deputy to Mitrovic and Bobby De Cordova-Reid. 18th, West Bromwich Albion, Charlie Austin. West Brom were the hardest team to pick a backup striker from in the entire Premier League, with Hal Robson-Kanu, Callum Robinson, Charlie Austin, Carl Edwards, and Carlin Grant all currently on the books of the Hawthorns. Robinson and Grant have played the most minutes this season, and Robson-Kanu isn't an out-and-out centre-forward, so I think Austin is the right representative from West Bromwich. A prolific goalscorer for much of his career, Austin has also had problems with injuries, and is no longer the animal that he was in, say, the 2014-15 season. He bagged 10 goals as West Brom won promotion last season, and I'd be surprised if he scored even half that number this season. 17th, Burnley, Mate Vidra. Chris Wood has played the most minutes of any Burnley forward this season, with Jay Rodriguez and Ashley Barnes trailing him almost neck and neck. Consequently, I have to pick Mate Vidra, who has only played 158 minutes of Premier League football this season. A big money signing by Burnley standards, setting the club back £11 million, that hasn't come with any guarantees for the Czech international. A classic case of too good for the Championship, but seemingly not quite good enough for the Premier League, Vidra has only managed 3 goals in 39 Premier League games since making that move. 16th, Leeds United, Tyler Roberts. Patrick Bamford and record signing Rodrigo are clearly Marcelo Bielsa's first choice forwards at Elland Road, with Tyler Roberts serving as a fairly able deputy. Young, versatile and enthusiastic, Roberts joined Leeds from West Brom in 2018, and he's still only 21. He bagged 4 goals in 23 games as Bielsa's men won promotion last season, but half of them were against Hull City, who were possibly the worst team in the history of the Championship from January onwards, and conceded 8 goals against Wigan Athletic. Roberts seems to be a trier and he's still improving, but right now 16th place seems about right. 15th, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Fabio Silva. By far the youngest inclusion in this list, Fabio Silva won't have expected to have been thrust into the spotlight as quickly as he has been at Wolverhampton Wanderers this season. Raul Jimenez has been among the division's best centre-forwards for the last 2 seasons, but a nasty injury meant his teenage deputy was called upon earlier than expected this season. Fabio Silva is Wolves' club record signing, having arrived for £35 million from Porto, but the 18-year-old is no doubt one for the future. A tremendous prospect, who will hopefully end up becoming the best player in this entire list. At this moment in time, Silva has good movement and technique, but he looks, understandably, a little inexperienced when leading the Wolves line alone, so for now, I think 15th feels right. 14th, Southampton, Shane Long. The partnership of Danny Ings and Shea Adams is one that is working wonders for Ralph Hasenhüttl at this moment in time, and the Saints have 3 forwards waiting in the wings. Of the 3, Long is the most experienced and the one with the most minutes under his belt this season. A capable forward, now in his 10th successive season in the Premier League, Long has an excellent work ethic, bags of pace, and a decent footballing IQ. His problem, primarily, has been consistently scoring goals, particularly at St Mary's, where he has only managed 35 goals in 216 games. Nonetheless, his all-round game earns him a spot in 14th. 13th, Sheffield United, RHIAN BREWSTER. It's a little unusual that Sheffield United play with 2 centre-forwards. They've only scored 5 goals all season, and they have a striker on the bench who I don't think is anywhere close to being the worst backup option in the division. RHIAN BREWSTER might not have much top-flight experience, but he was excellent during his half-season on loan at Swansea City and immense in the youth team game. The 20-year-old is alert, good on the ball, and a marvellous finisher. And personally, I think he merits a run in Chris Wilder's team alongside David McGoldrick and ahead of Ollie McBurney, especially given the Blades' current goal-scoring woes. 12th, Everton, Cenk Tosun. I have to give a shout out to my friend Sam, who rather boldly predicted that Cenk Tosun would win the 2018-19 Premier League Golden Boot whilst we were on holiday in Portugal the previous summer. The Golden Boot actually ended up being a 3-way tie that season between Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, all tied on 22 goals. Meanwhile, Tosun very narrowly missed out with an almost equally impressive tally of 3. The Turkish international set Everton back £27 million, having scored prolifically for Besiktas for 2.5 years, but he hasn't been able to repeat that form in England. Far from the quickest, Tosun is a bit of a throwback who relies upon his positioning, aerial ability, and composure in front of goal, but we've seen little of any of them at Goodison Park. No doubt he's a talent though, and don't be surprised if he rediscovers his goal-scoring form in a different league once he leaves the Toffees. 11th, Aston Villa, Wesley. Aston Villa striker Wesley Moraes has been out of action for close to a year now, but is finally on the cusp of a return, which is always good to hear. Of course, that means we don't know definitively how Dean Smith will rank him up against Ollie Watkins, but my suspicion is that the more recent arrival will get the nod ahead of the returning Brazilian in the immediate future at least, with Keenan Davis relegated to 3rd choice. A powerful and aggressive centre-forward, Wesley scored 6 goals in 22 outings prior to injuring the cruciate ligaments in his knee last season, having been signed from Club Bruges for £22 million. 10th, Brighton and Hove Albion, Danny Welbeck. Possibly the most challenging player to rank in this entire video, I opted for Danny Welbeck ahead of Florian Andone as Brighton's backup options behind Neil Maupay and Aaron Connolly. Welbeck has had a torrid time with injuries over the last 5 years, and since his move to Arsenal in 2014, he has scored a pretty miserable tally of 19 Premier League goals in 6.5 seasons. Nonetheless, there is still a player in there when he can stay fit, and we've seen glimpses of that at Brighton this season. Quick and inventive, Welbeck can play centrally or out wide, and there are reports that Brighton are already weighing up offering him an extended deal at the Amex Stadium. 9th, Arsenal, Eddie Nketiah. With Alexander Lacazette and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang typically starters, either Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson or Gabriel Martinelli has to get the shout as the most capable deputy. Nelson and Martinelli like to operate out wide though, and since we're focused on central strikers primarily, the right choice for the Gunners is Nketiah. Having recently leapfrogged Alan Shearer and Francis Jeffers as England under-21's all-time top scorer, the youngster is clearly a talent. He's quick, he works hard, and he's got a natural sense for sniffing out opportunities. Nketiah has already bagged 3 and 6 in the Europa League this season, and I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. in addition to already being the 9th best backup striker in the division. 8th, West Ham United, Sebastian Haller. Teams starting with the word West presented the biggest challenges in this list, whether it was West Brom or West Ham. In the case of West Ham United, they don't really have an obvious backup at all. Mikel Antonio and Sebastian Haller are the only obvious central strikers, and neither of them are really backup options. Nonetheless, Antonio has played slightly more minutes for the Hammers this season, and I would suggest he is in pole position to start between the two when everyone is fit. Consequently, West Ham do really rather well in this list, taking 8th place. Haller cost the Hammers a club record potential £45 million, and given that price tag, his debut campaign was a little underwhelming. A big, powerful target man style centre forward, Haller is nonetheless a handful and shows signs of adapting to life in the Premier League this season. 7th, Crystal Palace, MICHY Batshuayi. Another one where there is some ambiguity. Jordan Ayew has played the most minutes of any Crystal Palace centre forward this season, followed by MICHY Batshuayi, and then Christian Benteke. Neither Benteke or Batshuayi have played more than 50% of minutes, so both are eligible by my basic criteria, meaning Batshuayi gets the nod, in terms of both minutes and talent. Obviously a sharp-eyed goal-getter, Batshuayi most likely made the wrong decision to join Chelsea in 2016, and it means he's been in flux for the last 4 years, now aged 27. His goal-scoring record at Marseille or Borussia Dortmund is testament to what he can do with a run of games in the right system, and although he isn't getting that right now, he's still worthy of a spot in 7th for me. 6th, Leicester City, Kelechi Iheanacho. Jamie Vardy is clearly Leicester City's main man up front, with Kelechi Iheanacho and Islam Slimani serving as his very capable deputies. Iheanacho has only played 143 minutes this season, meaning he certainly fits the description of a backup. Meanwhile, Slimani has played less than half an hour of football. When Iheanacho scored a remarkable 14 goals for Man City in his very first season as a professional while still a teenager, he looked like a born goal-getter, but he has played in a bit more of a withdrawn role at times at the King Power Stadium. He has struggled to really get going in Leicestershire at times, following a fairly sizable move, but he hit double figures for the Foxes for the first time last season, and I don't think there are too many better deputies in the division. 5th, Tottenham Hotspur, Carlos Vinicius. There's probably no team in the Premier League more reliant on their number 9 than Tottenham Hotspur, and there's also probably no finer number 9 in the division than Tottenham's. All that means that new signing Carlos Vinicius has made only 6 appearances so far this season, with just 1 coming in the Premier League. Whilst I don't believe he, or anyone for that matter, could really replace the role that Kane does at Tottenham at this moment in time, he is among the best backup strikers in the league. A big, robust centre-forward who is particularly dangerous in the air, Vinicius scored 24 goals in Portugal for Benfica last season, and he cost Spurs £2.7 million in order to take him on a season-long loan. Should they wish to sign him on a permanent basis at the end of this season, the deal will cost the club £40 million. 4th, Liverpool, Divock Origi. Into the Champions League places of backup strikers, we start with the reigning Premier League champions and a cult hero at Anfield. The arrival of Diogo Jota may have pushed Divock Origi further down the Reds' pecking order, but even if he is to leave this summer, his contribution to the club will never be forgotten. Having looked finished on Merseyside only a few years ago, Origi fought his way back into contention and played a key role, particularly in Liverpool's 2019 Champions League success. A quick, well-rounded frontman who can play centrally or out wide on the left, Origi has to make do with cameo appearances in Anfield, but he has a fantastic attitude, and I have no doubt he would hit 15 plus goals if he were a regular starter. 3rd, Chelsea, Tammy Abraham. This is a bit of a tricky one since Timo Werner now appears to be nailed on starter for Chelsea since his arrival, but which, if any, of Chelsea's other forward options play alongside him is up for debate. Just at this moment in time, Olivier Giroud is playing and Tammy Abraham is benched, or at least at the time of this recording, hence why Abraham is our inclusion. The scorer of 18 goals in his first season as a regular at Stamford Bridge last season, Abraham cruises into 3rd place for me. A quick and industrious centre-forward with a sharp eye for goal, Abraham appears to be a fantastic pro with an excellent work ethic, and aged 23, he still has plenty of room to improve. 2nd, Manchester United, Edinson Cavani. No one else in this video can hold a candle to what Edinson Cavani has achieved within the game of football over the years, and in his pomp, he'd take top spot, except for the fact that he wouldn't, because in his pomp, he wouldn't be a backup option. A player who I must admit I didn't fully appreciate during his time at Napoli. The more you watch Cavani in action, the more you appreciate what he brings to the table. In addition to a hatful of goals, and his goal-scoring record really is superb, Cavani also has a real appreciation for those around him, and an understanding of the types of passes they want and where they want him to be. He may have lost half a yard of pace now, aged 33, but he still has a phenomenal appetite for the sport, great athleticism, particularly in the air, and the ability to pop it with a goal when called upon. The scorer of 356 career goals in 596 games in total, Cavani has bagged 3 and 6 in the Premier League so far this season. First, Manchester City. Gabriel Jesus. I think there is a debate to be had between Edinson Cavani and Gabriel Jesus' talents at this moment in time, but if I had to choose between them, which I did, I'd go for Jesus, which I have. He might be a little out of sorts at the moment, without a goal in 6 games at the time of this recording, but Jesus' overall record in front of goal is outstanding, and as Pep Guardiola likes to drum home, he does offer a lot more than goals alone. In terms of goals though, it's worth noting that Jesus scored more goals before the age of 23 than the likes of Karim Benzema, Marcus Rashford and Ruud van Nistelrooy. Since arriving in England, in spite of his recent barren spell, Jesus has averaged 0.44 goals per game, which is by far the best record in this list. Even when he's not scoring goals though, Jesus has a fantastic attitude, bags of pace and really intelligent movement. Make no mistake, he still has plenty of room to improve, and he can and will score more goals, but he's already the best deputy centre forward in the Premier League, in my eyes at least. No doubt some of you will disagree, as I said in the introduction, and it would be very dull if you didn't. But thank you all for watching as ever. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, even if you didn't necessarily agree with me. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for HITC Sevens. And you can also find me on Twitter or Instagram via the username @HITC Sevens, and follow me should you feel so inclined.